Test. Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. My name is Jesse Dram, and you are listening to the Kill Your Gods podcast, where, we talk about fandoms and shit like that. We're not really doing that this week. We're going to have a little bit of a looser format. You may have noticed this is a shorter episode than usual. We're going to have a little chat. I'm going to try some kind of reformatting. Again, I'm sure I will lose all of my listeners in the meantime. Guys, I really cannot overstate how frustrating it is when this podcast started as I Hate Infinite Jest. By the way, let's take a little step further back. My first podcast was one called the Magical Misery Tour. Matter of fact, if you go all the way back to the beginning of my RSS feed here, I have a few of those episodes up, but not all of them. I'm gonna put up some more. That was my first podcast. That was Magical Misery Tour, where funny people discuss life's unfunniest things. See, I got my whole rap going. But yeah, the only thing was I had a very small base there. I talked to Philadelphia comedians, and they were great episodes. They were interesting stories, but ultimately I was asking people to, hey, come hear interesting shit from people you don't know anything about. So, what's the appeal? So I pulled the plug on that. During COVID, I decided to read Infinite Jest for the I Hate Infinite Jest podcast, where unfunny people discuss the world's unfunnest book. God, you know what's funny? I read that book, and in the meantime, I was like, okay, there's things I like about it. I'm glad I read it. And then as soon as I got to the end and the further I've gotten away from it, the thought is still continuously like, man, fuck that book. God, that sucked. Just right up its own ass. And I've actually read something that made me reconsider it. Not whether it's good, just making me put less stake into my own opinion, which was from the approach of David Foster Wallace as being autistic or at least ADHD. Like, if you look at this from the perspective of somebody who is just overwhelmed with information and overstimulus all the time, like, okay, I can see that. I don't think this makes him a fucking genius. I think it was a dude, trying his best. I mean, I don't know, maybe it says something. I just found everything about him very annoying. But here's the thing. I got quite a bit of attention for that podcast. But then as soon as we were done, the Infinite Jest, though it may feel it, is not an infinite read. It has an eventual end. The only winning move is not to play. Shout out War Games 1986. Matthew Broderick, murderer of two Irish people. Where was I going with that for that dumb thing? Point is, the podcast was running out. Like, all right, well, we'll talk about other things. And literally every week since, I've just watched my numbers fall little by little. And there's no concept I'm so married to that I won't change it. And part of the problem is, I like the book read-along podcasts. As you know, we most recently did Dune. And I had a lot of fun with that. I already read Dune Messiah, and it's awesome. I don't know if I'm going to do an episode. If I do, it'll be on a Patreon, I guess. But yeah, those things are just naturally, those are not inviting series because, number one, you have to be a reader, which, in this day of instant gratification and overstimulus that David Foster Wallace warned us about. And these days, there's not a lot of readers because who needs an imagination when you can turn on a fucking YouTube compilation that'll give you that'll give you more stimulus than most of your ancestors had in their entire pathetic short lives. But yeah, it obviously a 9-part series. It's good. Number one, people are only going to be able to drop in on episode 1. Not everybody's going to get through the whole thing. So whatever. I'm doing a rant this week. We're talking nostalgia. We're talking about my life. Let's talk about something here. Let's talk about mental illness. My mental illness could hide in fear from your mental illness. That's our version of my dad could beat up your dad. Because if you're like me, your dad is dead, so they're not beating up any. I could beat up your dead dad with my dead dad. I miss my dad. Fuck it, here's a place to say it. I'm gonna be a dad. Yeah. What? I'm freaked the fuck out. People who have been listening to this know I started the I Hate Infinite Jest podcast while I was living with the lovely Perry Lerner. You can find her on the This Is Water episode. And all of our Game of Thrones episodes. I know I have to put up the rest of them. We still haven't. We recorded all of those as soon as we finished them, and then we finished season 8, and neither of us wanted to fucking talk about it. So we still haven't recorded season 8. Still, we're gonna get it knocked out. I'll put them all up at once. But yeah, you would know that in the time of that podcast, I got engaged, I got married, we bought a house, and now we are with child. Me specifically. Yes, if you see me recently, I'm putting on weight. I expect a butt baby around June. Yeah, I'm going to be a dad. And whew, it's weird. It is very weird. At the same time as this, my brother has just had his first child. Shout out to my niece Alessa, who's a few weeks old now. And he's going through the same thing as me, only a little bit different. My father died in 2009 when I was 22. And in 2019, my stepfather died, Ken, who, my brother was 20. No, he was 29. He was 29 or 30. But I guess we're both having a bit of the same thoughts of, our fathers weren't the greatest fathers, but they were good men. They were decent men. They were kind men, if nothing else. I was going to say what you will about my fathers and stepfathers. They were not cruel men. But my father enjoyed a bit of the old... My father's favorite movie was Clockwork Orange, and he says because he enjoyed a bit of the old ultra-violence. He was a barroom brawler. Looking back now, it seems almost certain that he probably ate some lead chips as a kid. And I'm not saying that in a pejorative way at all. I'm saying that him, and particularly his friends of his generation in this particular geographical area, were very violent men. They seem to not have any prefrontal cortex, where a lot of people, that's where inhibition comes from, and anxiety, where I have a lot of it. But these were guys who did not worry about consequences. They swung. And my dad in particular enjoyed it. He used to tell me, the way you go to a party and you look for who the cute girl is that you're going to try and hook up with, I would do that at a party looking for who am I going to square up with. That man somehow created me. I was terrified of him. I loved him. I was terrified of him. But me and my brother are both in the position now of carrying on the bloodline, recreating a DNA into procreation. And, God, it's making me think of my dad. And it's making me think of my stepdad in particular, because just like, fuck, Kenny, you could have hung on 2 more years. I mean, he died due to complications of cancer, my stepdad. But the honest to God truth is it all goes back to alcohol. Like, he probably, even if he got colon cancer eventually, the alcohol was certainly a contributing factor. This man was a case of Budweiser a day habit. I have a lot of guilt and conflicting feelings. My last communication with him ever, I had posted a photo of me and Perry about 3 weeks into dating. We had gone to a Smashing Pumpkins concert, and I posted a photo. And my stepdad, who hadn't been with my mother for a few years, he was living on his own in his brother's house where he had been recuperating. Well, not really. He had been slowly dying. When he got cancer, he had already ruined his business, his home remodeling business, by becoming more and more of an alcoholic and just fucking people over, unfortunately. That was not always, that was something from the last few years of his life as things spun out. He did not take the divorce from my mother well, and I'd probably have sympathy if he hadn't, if he'd been a better fucking husband to her. But, So yeah, he was living there, and our last communication was he had commented on the photo on Facebook, saying, "Oh, who's the girl?" I said, it's a new lady friend of mine. I don't know. I think she's special. He said, "Well, you're gonna have to bring her by sometime." And I didn't even respond because I was like, "Ken, I'm not going to bring my new sweetheart to the fucking tiny little bedroom you live in with some other, that place was referred to as, I'm not going to say the family name halfway house, because it's kind of where, you know, I'll be charitable and I'll say where some members of the family who were not getting along great lived rent free. But yeah, I'm not going to bring my new love to this flop house where you're sitting in your room all day and guilting me into picking you up a case of beer anytime I visit, knowing it was just going to kill you further. So like I said, he had colon cancer. He had beaten it. He did not die from cancer. He died from complications from it, because the honest to God truth is the moment he could start, the doctor said you can have some alcohol again. He went from a case a day to clean while he was getting treatment to a case a day and plenty of other drugs, more than I am going to say. And as a result, his body did not heal right. And ultimately, his body not healing right is what killed him. So technically, it was a complication of a whatever the procedure is where they shut off your colon and redirect it into a colostomy bag. Technically, that was it. But the bottom line is it was alcohol. Same as my father. My father died of a drug overdose of mixing whiskey and OxyContin, which he had received from a doctor for a hip injury. I believe he had a fractured pelvis at the time that he'd suffered at work. And yeah, he went to a card game with his friends. They said he was chewing them like candy. And he took some floozy home, fell asleep, and never woke up. And I don't know what that floozy's exact responsibility is. She said she woke up and he was blue and she couldn't move him or whatever. Whatever it was suspicious, and it was enough that we said, "Hey, I know you're a friend of my dad's and probably the last one he ever stooped, but don't come to the funeral. Fuck you." Yeah. So that's that. Wow, this was supposed to be about nostalgia. I was gonna record 5 fucking minutes and then go back to watching I'm watching a Hong Kong horror movie called The Untold Story. It's pretty brutal, but check it out on Shudder. It's really good. But yeah, so it was always a shame because I grew up without a grandfather on either side. Both succumbed to colon cancer in their 50s? Yeah, 50s. And both of them, it was said, had symptoms for years, had never gone to the doctor. And then by the time they did, it's like, well, you're going to be dead in 8 months. Sorry. Part of the reason I'm a hypochondriac. They ain't catching me unawares. So yeah, I never grew up. I grew up without a grandfather. And anytime I got close to an old man, he'd fucking die right away. Oh, my sister's grandfather was such a cool guy. He's like, "Hey, welcome to the family, little buddy. Here, I taped WrestleMania 9. I'm going to go sit down." Dead. Oh, he was such a cool guy. He loved wrestling. Showed me my first WrestleMania. What more can a boy ask for? My best friend of middle school and high school, Matt Merziowski, his grandfather, Pop, was a surrogate grandfather for me. He was awesome. Awesome in all the ways a fucking old man should. Making dirty jokes, being nice to your girlfriends, and then as soon as they leave the room, like, "That one had fat titties, bring her around again." He didn't sound anything like that. He was a cool old Irish guy. But he died almost immediately. But he was older. I got to be a pallbearer at his funeral. As I joke around in my stand-up saying I'm like the death friend. Like, my friends don't call me for barbecues or double dates or vacations, but anytime somebody's fucking fucking Nana is jumping off the roof. They call me because they know I've been through the shit. I've never been in a wedding party, yet I am a 4-time MVP pallbearer. Goddamn right. That was an honor. I eventually fell out with Matt. We're okay now, but, things are never the same. Now we can get into nostalgia. No. So the overall thing is just these babies coming into the world and just knowing my stepdad would have been such a good grandfather, and knowing my dad would have been such a good oh my God. Taking the kids fishing and playing the music and, driving around. Like, come here, sit on Pop-Pop's knee. Let me tell you a story, that kind of thing. Fuck, those would have been the most beautiful moments to witness, and they're never, ever going to happen. I said, when I lost my dad at a young age, I told this to friends. And by the way, I think it's not only that I lost my father young, it's that I lost my father suddenly. He was there and he was gone. Like, he wasn't healthy, but it's not like he was like, oh, my time's soon. He was fat. He was fat and he was lazy. And then he fucking died in his sleep, and then that was it. Fuck, I forget where I was going there. It is like it's like losing a god. Your father's a superhero when you're a young boy, and then he's gone one day. And I knew, bad as things got, and my dad did fucked up. My dad, I was 18. My dad borrowed $500 from me because he knew I was working a pizza delivery job and making decent money. He borrowed $500 from me, saying he welched on a bet, and some guys, pretty much my dad had an ass beating coming his way. You're going to get his fucking legs broken or something. Borrowed $500 from him. He wouldn't pay me back. He bullshitted me. He was known for doing this to people. He did it to me. And it's just tricky having people knowing, like, I'm going to miss those times one day, and yet I need to keep them away for this period for my own health, to have healthy boundaries. I don't know. You can't pick these things. They all suck. Just be nice to your dads. Try and work shit out with them. I know a lot of people don't talk to their dads over some bullshit, like politics. My dad voted for Donald Trump. Like, yeah, he's an old, stupid man. That's what they fucking do. Get over. If my dad were here right now, I would have so much fun fucking with him, because I know he would love Donald Trump, and I would fuck with him so hard. Like, oh yeah, Dad, spoiled little rich boy, you think he gives a shit about you? Let me show you how good your fucking, I just burped. Let me show you how good the economy was under Obama, that N-word you said you would never see in the White House. I'd give him so much shit. I was hanging out with a friend of mine the other day who was like a very boisterous, like fun, like pretty much like fun, cool black guy, but not like a safe black guy. And I don't even mean a hood black guy, which unfortunately is what some people make out. Like they think you're either fucking Wayne Brady or Tupac. Like, nah, he's just a very cool fucking black dude with a very distinct black energy. Like he's been around cool, masculine men. And this would be a guy like I would want my dad to fucking meet, because I know my dad would be totally polite, and then as soon as my friend, was gone for the day, just be like, Dad, you taught me as a little boy to fucking hate that guy. That guy we just had so much fun with. We had such a good time. You taught me to fucking fear him and people like him. What kind of pussy were you? Not only that you did that yourself, that you would put that into your fucking kid's head. Are you kidding me? And he'd get pissed off, but like, I would have made him such a better man if he had lived, because I would not have let him get away with that bullshit, because I love fucking arguing. He loved it too, honestly. The last conversation I had in person with my father was right before I moved to California, so we were hanging out one last day and didn't have anything to do, so we ended up watching TV. And the Led Zeppelin movie Song Remains the Same was on TV, and Jimmy Page had a guitar solo, and I said Jimmy Page was horribly overrated as a guitarist, and my father said, yeah, well, you're adopted and I never really loved you. That's where I get this fucking sense of humor. So with that, with me insulting my father's nostalgia, I will talk about my own nostalgia. And this is just going to be some shit we talk about this week. We'll have a better format as things come along. I have some ideas, but we're not there right now. Talk about nostalgic music. I mean, first off, I've read there's a few things. You can go look them up there. Scientists and studies and research has shown that the music that has come out when you were 13 or 14 years old will always be your favorite music. It's why you get older and nothing sounds good to you anymore. And guess what? You might think you have your own special reasons, and I think I have my own special reasons, which is honestly, I like dynamic in music. I like things to get loud and then soft and then loud and then soft. Think of Nirvana. Think of Smells Like Teen Spirit for a perfect example. Load up pumpkins, bring your friends. And then 30 seconds later, when the lights out, this is dangerous. Like, loud, soft, near, far. That kind of shit. And I felt like rock music got further and further away from that, where it was just going to be what it was for the whole time. But yeah, we are so open to art at that age, and that's why some of your best songs, favorite songs you think of, probably came from that era. One of the songs that came from me, one of the bands, Limp Bizkit, and they just released an album this week. Not a bad album either. I'll say it. Some of it's dumb. I feel like Wes, the guitarist, really phoned it in on a lot of it. He has some cool riffs in there, but pretty lazy for his point. 2 acoustic songs with Fred Durst trying to actually sing. I don't know what fucking focus group he did for that one. Maybe he was relying on the famous, the famous transparent Russian elections that he found so fun. Do you remember a few years ago where Fred Durst was like a fucking propaganda puppet for the Russian state, and he like lived in Ukraine and made a documentary? These Ukrainians are just begging to be attacked by the Russians. Weird fucking times we're living in. But I totally lost that. Point is, yeah, I don't know who they thought they wanted that from. It sounds like they're trying to be Stained 20 years too late. But there's still good shit on here. And if you are of my age range, born and coming of age, I was 13. I was appropriately angry for the age I was at. I was full of hormones and horniness, and nobody would touch my penis. Of course, this is what was going to happen. But like, yeah, even that, I mean, I don't know. It became in retrospect the retcon. Like, why are white men so angry? Like Metallica. I'm sorry if I repeat anything. I had to drop out, so I'm starting again. Like, Rage Against the Machine were obviously righteously, politically angry for a good cause. Kid Rock was more about a fucking party thing. He wasn't really pissed off talking about fucking people up. Worst case scenario, he wanted to fuck your wife. He was going to paint this town red and paint your wife white. And Metallica was just artier than the other stuff. I mean, they were aggressive, but there's, still a big difference between, like, Limp Bizkit, like, I'm going to fuck you up, son, and Metallica, like, here's a song we wrote about an Ernest Hemingway book. Here's a song about a book written by Dalton Trumbo, who was a member of the Blacklisted 10 from the House of Un-American Activities during the Red Scare in the 50s. They were dorks in their own way. But there was even James Hetfield's... God, this is going to sound so bad if I repeated this. The song The Thing That Should Not Be is about James Hetfield's experience as a child growing up in the Christian Science church and seeing a girl with an untreated broken arm being praised by the community as evidence that her mangled, disfigured arm was a sign of God's love and healing. And yeah, a lot of these bands sucked. I like some Linkin Park stuff, but I still maintain, like, cutting did not exist until Stained and Linkin Park fucking introduced it in the early 2000s. And looking back, I do feel like I was sold sadness porn at a time I was most vulnerable to it. And that pisses me off a little bit. I was just a boy. And they wanted to take advantage of how shitty I felt. But yeah, it was cool to have that aggression. And specifically, Korn, they tried to grab some of it. It sucks it was beaten to death. Because it felt like metal in the 80s and early 90s was all about power. And then new metal, specifically with Korn, it became victimhood. It became like, it felt like Pantera and shit was like, it's time to rise. We're going to rise above and we're going to take over. And then Korn was, you called me a faggot, but now I'm a tough guy and I'm going to... Yeah. And by the way, I would not use the word faggot there if it were not for the fact that it was a literal name of a Korn song. A very good Korn song. But yeah, I didn't like that whole downslope into that. So like, this is the weird thing. A lot of the music, despite what I said before, that came out when I was 13 or 14, didn't really reach out to me. I was 13 or 14. I was mostly listening to music released before I was born, like Black Sabbath, Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, which is a weird double nostalgia because my dad was a young dad. I heard most of that stuff from him when I was even younger. I was 6 years old riding around in my dad's blue Thunderbird in the passenger seat. And in the tape deck, he'd have Lynyrd Skynyrd and Aerosmith and Megadeth's Countdown to Extinction and Metallica's Black Album and Injustice for All and Anthrax's Among the Living and White Zombie's La Sexorcisto Devil Music Volume 1, baby. I was so glad I got my wife into them. She'd never heard White Zombie, only Rob Zombie. White Zombie is... I will take White Zombie over Rob Zombie 7 days a week, twice on Sunday. But, so I had my own early double nostalgia with them. So I went through and I had, if I had to pick some songs that were released from the ages of 13 to 14, they would be, number one, the entirety of the Dream Theater album, Scenes from a Memory. Now, this is a cheat because I don't think I heard this album until I was 15, but it was released less than a month after my 13th birthday. This is the gold standard of music for me. The music was complicated and beautiful and epic, and it's a concept album about a man who continually has nightmares where he sees a young woman being murdered, and after investigating this, he goes to a hypnotherapist and finds out that this woman was him in a past life, so now he has to find his murderer through regression, and it is can bring me to tears still. When me and Perry first started dating, they did, Dream Theater did the 20-year anniversary tour for that, and they were playing the album in its entirety, and I associate both of those albums with loss and love and the afterlife, and I saw them twice on that tour. The first time I saw them was April 13th, 2019, which was my dad's birthday, and I listened to that album live, and I pulled during the song The Spirit Carries On, I pulled out the photo in my wallet of me and my father where I'm a young boy, and I wept, and I felt his presence more than I have ever felt it and since he's died. And I thought I'd never have another experience like that until, guess what? 3 months later, my fucking stepdad died, and a month later, my new girlfriend got me tickets to see the same fucking tour on the second market leg in fucking New Brunswick, New Jersey. And I went again, and I had the same experience, only this time mourning a different father figure. But yeah, I cannot recommend it enough. It is amazing. The other thing, I might edit in some clips here, so I'm going to be silent for a second. All right, add to that the entirety of songs from the Sifel and Ali show. I want to do a future episode on them. They were a sock puppet show that aired from 1999 to 2000 on MTV. You would be aware of it if you have ever heard this song, well, this is my United States of whatever. And this is my United States of whatever. That song originally appeared on the Syphil and Holly show, created and that song written by Liam Lynch, who learned songwriting. He won a scholarship to a performing arts school that Paul McCartney opened. He literally learned songwriting from Paul McCartney. This dumb little puppet show determined my taste not only in music but in comedy for all the years that have followed. You can see every episode online. Syphil is Sifl, Ollie is Olly. Just go watch it. It's so fucking amazing. If I can pick a song or two: Dude's House, Hellfire, Weird Day, Dolores, Crescent Fresh. Oh my God, Crescent Fresh. I know a girl named Tina, and her tongue tastes just like steaks. Okay. Getting to the other stuff. Korn, Falling Away From Me. God, here's an embarrassing story. I was in a class in 8th grade. It was called Academically Talented. It was where the smart kids got a period like 3 times a week where they could be smart kids and leave the rabble behind. And our teacher, Mr. Reinhardt, had tried to foster the idea of debate. God, this video still exists somewhere. He tried to make us a little debate club. And in one of these little debates we had, which is on film somewhere, there was a girl on the opposite side who was complaining about the video for Korn's Falling Away From Me, where it shows a girl being beaten by her stepfather and like running away and finding other people, and then they come back and like magically destroy him. I don't know. And she said, like, I don't think they should show that, like, because kids are going to actually run away. And then I went on a screed about being bullied, and you didn't know what it felt like, and I was bullied for being fat, and I fucking broke down in tears. It was so bad. It was so fucking bad. I cringe knowing that video exists somewhere. That wasn't Mr. Reinhardt. That was Mr. DeCiano. Reinhardt had left by then, but whew, that video would be painful. But like I said, wallowing. Korn had a great appearance and debut of this song on the show South Park, which, yeah, still a great show, but also I was 13 at the time, so you better bet I fucking love me some South Park. 2 songs here: Stains Outside and Papa Roach's Last Resort / Broken Home. Whiny little bitch shit that encouraged young people to hurt themselves. That, you know, in retrospect, kind of fucked up. So, Aaron Lewis, go fuck yourself, loser. The fact that he became a right-wing troll asshole doesn't change the fact that there are so many kids my age out there that have fucking scars on their wrists because you built a fucking home by encouraging them to wallow in their fucking misery. Fuck you, Aaron Lewis. Fuck Kobe Dick, Jacoby Shaddix, whatever the fuck. He seemed to grow up a little bit, but still, like, seriously. Looking back, that's one of the only things that really makes me mad about my fucking childhood. Okay. Temper check. Okay. At the Drive-In, Relationship of Command, incredible post-punk album. Listen to it the whole way through. If you need one song, One Armed Scissor. It is the single, but it's awesome. Good Charlotte's first album. It's horribly cheesy and rudimentary in retrospect. I'm pretty sure every song features some version of Everything's Gonna Be Alright, because they were very immature songwriters. I love it, though. Screamer is a great song. Complicated is a... For as big as that album was in my group of friends, and in just my generation, and again, I know they were an East Coast band, so where I was living in Philadelphia, they may have been bigger here than other places. But still, the B tracks on that album are great. Walk By, Let Me Go, Screamer. Like, go check it out. It really is fucking good. Backstreet Boys, I Want It That Way. Again, I'm sorry I called you guys gay my entire adolescence. Shit. Yeah, I'm looking at my notes here. I really don't have anything else. I have something here on how a lot of my friends became wiggers and they just listened to... And I know that's not an appropriate term, but it's just so... It's perfect, though, because that's what these kids were. They were little fucking ugh. But yeah, that's where the other kids my age went. They just dived deep into hip hop. It would be fun. Here's the thing: I would have no problem with kids getting into hip hop. It's just when I grew up, it was fucking 13-year-olds in 4X white shirts bullying me. Like, hey, yo, son, what the fuck you know about this, huh? What you know? You gonna step on this side, you gonna fuck with the Alcy and Dry Posse, you gonna get a motherfucking bullet in your chin. Like, your name is... your name is Mickey. What the fuck are you doing? Like, literal kids who will be like, hey, yo, Mickey, your father's on the phone. Oh, yeah, hey, guys, like, yo, I gotta go talk up my pops. Hold on. Hi, Daddy, how are you? Oh, yes, I'll be home for dinner. Oh, could we get pepperoni? Okay, thank you, Daddy, I love you. Yeah, you know, my pops, he be being a little bitch. He be like, yo, you want white or red pizza? I be like, motherfucker, I don't even give a shit. I cannot not cringe to it, unfortunately, to this day. Fuck. Okay, well, that's it for this rant episode, I guess. I'm going to go back to... I started a new job today. I'm exhausted. It's also daylight savings time, and I have a baby on the way. Fuck, I don't know what's happening. Come see me on the 18th at Flying Fish Brewery, where we're having another comedy show like we always do. I got other shows. I'll promote them next time. I hope you enjoy this weird little experiment. Send me a message at Jesse Dram on all the things. Follow me on Twitter. I don't know what the fuck next week's episode's going to be. We're going to see. I'll probably bring other people in. I'm clearly phoning it in. If it's a bunch of Game of Thrones shit, you know, we finally got around to recording season 8. All right, I'll see you guys later. Good night.